Hello, Ian.
Hey Brady, how are you, man?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for asking, and thanks for. Well, I got the message that to jump on early if I was available, so thank you for that as well. So,
Thank you.
oh, all good. So I'm just still kind of setting my stuff up, a bottle of water, Red Bull because it's Monday morning. Anyway, so let's crack on. You guys are about to do a regional tour of Australia. I'm from Adelaide, so you will be making it here. You're playing at Bridgeway when you get here. Then it's good things after that. It's a bit of a blizzard of you guys, pretty much. Is this a precursor to 224, maybe?
Yeah, we're so lucky that it feels like everything, the momentum isn't slowing down. So yeah, I think the plan is to keep playing as much as possible if people want to see us and hear us. So who knows?
Oh, good, good, good. I mean, you guys have got I think it's Heaven She and the Beautiful Moment supporting you guys. Do you handpick the support acts?
Usually what happens is we are dorky dads now, so we're not constantly following who the new awesome bands are. So we're normally presented with a bunch. But I think we do have history with both those artists because haven't she, we've known Jenna for a million years. And we love what she's doing. So as soon as that name came up, we were like, wow, she actually will do it. That's amazing. So that was an easy one. And then the beautiful monument, I think we knew a really long time ago. I think they've had a few member changes, but yeah, we love those guys. We've known them again since I think 2009 or something. We've heard of them and they're lovely.
They are actually. I've seen them. I've seen them quite a bit, and you can see the growth that they're having. So for them, it's fantastic that they're going to get on a band as big as yours around Australia because there's quite a few shows in there, isn't there? There's what 12, 14?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, enough. That'll do. So in regards to the tour, because you had the big national tour last year when the album came out, and I do know you've just released or re-released, kind of maybe. The Stack is the new Black on vinyl. So is this tour going to be a nod to the debut album, or is it going to be a continuation of the last tour from last year?
Even though I think we are bringing out songs that people are enjoying just as much as our early stuff, we never want to be one of those bands that's like a bit too full of themselves and we're like, we're only going to play one song from 2009. Like, we understand that a lot of our biggest songs are from, 13 years ago now. So it's just honestly, it's quite a mix. Like when we think about all the film clips and the singles we've had, that's pretty much our entire set. So there's only really room for one or two songs for us or covers or something. They're all singles.
Yeah, which is fair enough. I mean, it's I remember the band. Remember the band Roxette?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were really big in the late 80s, early 90s, like huge from Sweden. And their whole thing was when you went to see them live was we're going to play singles because that's what you bought the records based on. That's what you want to hear. So it was like, well, I remember seeing an interview with them and I just thought that's gold. Like they've actually just acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And it's good that you guys are. Um, in regards to the the vinyl being released, is that going to be the start of all your stuff being released, or is there a change in focus on how you are presenting yourselves as a band moving forward?
I think initially we saw it as like we're not huge what are you, vinyl heads? I don't know what the expression is. We appreciate it and I see how it's a cool collector thing, but I don't think any of us, oh, Andy has a record player, but Sean and I don't. However, we've got it in our hands and we went, oh, this is so cool. I totally get why people like to collect these things. So we initially saw it as like a merch item. And then when it actually charted okay, we were like, oh, this is, yeah, people aren't screwing around with this. So yeah, I think it would be great to release everything. And judging by how our first album sold by releasing it on vinyl, I don't see why we wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, does that mean vinyl? You get, like you mentioned there's people who there's a niche with vinyl who love it and they just like really invested in it. Do you yourself have anything other than drums? Because we'll get to that shortly, and your family. Do you have anything that you're invested in? Like you have, when you're traveling the world, you go, oh, I've got to buy this and that.
I used to collect a lot of random things. I used to take pride in like a movie collection and my PlayStation games. And as I've gotten older, I don't really collect anything anymore. I just take pride in anything that, any audio equipment that's expensive. And I'm very careful to not let it be, get cookie crumbs and paint on it from my son. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I saw it in your Instagram that you obviously got your own studio there. You do your drum school, and you put photos of your kid in there, which is absolutely adorable. But as soon as you say cookie crumbs, that's the first thing I'm thinking of. Because like when I was a kid, my dad had the vinyl collection, and when I was a kid, I still got grief years later for you damaged that record, you scratched that record. I was like, geez, all right. It's like grow up now, Yes, so it's so when I saw that as well, and I was like, very brave, very well behaved. Well, we'll give it that. Throughout the band's history, there's been moments where you guys have got to the point where you're like, okay, you kind of hit like this glass ceiling, which you're about to push through, and then you go on a hiatus or a break, and then you come back and you go and do it again. This again is another comeback in that aspect. I know it's been a couple of years now, but what's different this time with Short Stack than what there was previously?
It's a really boring answer, but it's just the fact. I think we grew up a lot more and we became dads, and we realized, I think when you become a parent, you learn a lot more about yourself. And we just realized we're not going to sweat the small things with each other. And we just learn to tolerate each other and our quirks, and just be grateful for the position we're in, because we see so many young bands and they just so desperate to have anyone. I mean, I wouldn't even say they're desperate to have anyone come to a show. They're desperate to play a show. So the fact that we have, these opportunities to be on a stage and be heard by lots of people, and they're actually singing our new stuff as well. It's not just our old stuff. We're just so grateful. So it's that humble attitude now, I think, of just being really thankful.
Yeah. So that leads into the kind of the rock and roll type question. So, because I mean, like you listen to your last album, and it still sounds like what a teenager would make. Like it still has that kind of I don't want to use the word vibrancy because I use that quite often, but it kind of has that like edge to it and excitement, but also emotion, I suppose, to it. All the different levels of emotion to it, which you can do when you're a teenager and you can do in your early 20s, and you're kind of fighting against the world. But you've mentioned it a couple of times now. Now you're a husband and you're a father and you settle down and things change. So how do you guys then still bring, 13 years ago, how do you still bring that then into the music for today?
It's a really good question. And I actually haven't really thought about that. But now that you ask it, I do wonder why that the energy is still there with our music, because we feel older. I know that some mornings when I get up, random pains are happening now that I'm in my 30s. So yeah, I think it's just when you grow up listening to Blink-182 and Green Day and Sum 41, it's just ingrained in you. So that's the only way we know how to make music. And I think if we're 80 years old and still doing this, we'll probably still sound the same. We might have to drop the tempo by 5 BPM or 10 BPM or 50, but I think this is what we'll always sound like. And I guess we're lucky in that sense.
Yeah, good. Talking of that then, well, actually, no, we'll go here. So, I mean, you dropped last year when it was Maybe There's No Heaven, was where you dropped that last year. It was a huge success. You were out there in the mainstream as well. Everybody was seeing your name again. Was that a surprise, having been away for a couple of years, to get that response?
Yeah, it was. We always doubt ourselves. Every single important moment of our career, we've always gone, what if no one turns up? What if no one buys the album? what if more people hate this one than the last thing we did? And it's only gotten better though. So again, we're so grateful, and we try and not be too surprised when we do okay now. So we're trying not to be too negative, I guess is the way we'll put it, and we try and think positively and just trust that people are enjoying what we do.
Glass half full. Well, I mean, the tour at the moment that the one you're about to do very shortly, I mean, that's my understanding is that's selling quite well. I mean, the venues that you're playing are anywhere between what 1,000 to 2,000 capacity venues, and it's selling quite well. So it's not as if people aren't interested. So I mean, it's obviously that's a success. We spoke about this briefly earlier. I mean, you've got your own drum school, you've got your family. You're about to do this tour, Good Things Festival at the end of the year as well. But in terms of you, what's next for Bradie?
Thank you. That's a lovely question, because I think we always think about ourselves as a group of three. But yeah, once I did start teaching drums to children, I found like a purpose, and it's my passion, and I really believe in it, and it's just my channel for giving back to the music world and trying to help kids out, I guess, and give them a good opportunity to it's just so important. I think everyone's got their own way of expressing themselves through music, and it could be uploading YouTube covers, or it could be trying to be the biggest artist in the world. So I think just working with kids and trying to understand what they want to get out of it, and mainly building confidence, because that's something that I found through drums and music, is like that huge amount of confidence I got, and it's helped me with every other area in my life.
Because if I'm correct, that's how you got into drums, through your dad when you were a child as well, didn't you?
Correct, yeah.
So it's a cycle of life, isn't it? So what you got as a child, you're now giving back.
Yeah.
So we spoke a little bit about this earlier as well. I mean, obviously you guys have been around for 13, 14 years, and you've seen, and you've got these bands touring with you who you've got these connections with, and you've had for quite some time. Arguably, you could say that in terms of the sort of scene that your band's in, you were one of kind of, in terms of Australia's, probably pioneer bands, or one of the first bands in that scene 13, 14, 15 years ago. Then you see other bands come through who are heavily influenced by you guys, like Red Hook, yours truly, as an example, just using them off the top of my head. Like, are you aware that you have these influence on these bands, that you've kicked down some doors for them?
It's a funny compliment to take, because I feel like we're just kind of imitating a million other bands. So if someone's ever imitating anything we do, it just feels like they're imitating our references, you know. But yeah, I think as I'm older now, I can appreciate what we did for the Australian music industry. And again, it sounds so crazy, but we were like one of the first internet bands, which is makes me sound so old. But I think that a lot of younger bands, when we were doing that internet thing, I think they were like, oh, we should be doing videos on YouTube, which sounds so obvious now, but that's nice to see that bands might give us credit for putting themselves out there when it was kind of frowned upon. You know, you had to be an Aussie band in a pub, and if you were doing YouTube stuff, that was kind of lame, and obviously that's changed now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge. I mean, I've only been here 20 years, and I can see, like, you can see the points where that's changed, like you've mentioned there. Like when I came over, it was all, if you weren't a cold chisel cover band, essentially, like no one cared. And now it's the complete opposite. And that particular scene that you're in, and you know, I do a lot of the shows in Adelaide, and you can just see the bands are getting in bigger and bigger venues, and the support for that. And it's not nostalgia. Like it's not like when Kiss turn up and you're buying your ticket because you want to be remembered what it was like when you were a kid. It's like you would have seen this last year. When you look out in the crowd, you would see people the same age as you, but you'll also see kids as well. Like that must be kind of quite heartwarming, like you mentioned earlier, when you're trying to give back, to see kids at the shows as well.
Yeah, it's like we spoke about. If our music is high energy and it's fun, then I think there's going to be, you know, a lot of my students, they play their favorite bands are AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. It doesn't really matter how old the band is. There's going to be an audience for it of all ages. And yeah, it's a lovely feeling to see whether it's a mum and their 7-year-old kid that's really liking our music, or it's just a bunch of 13-year-old guys that somehow found our stuff online and they really like it. You know, it's really lovely.
So what's good things at the end of the year? It's a big festival to be on because you did Unify last year, didn't you? Was it last year?
Yes.
Yeah. So to be on good things, that must be pretty special. Is there anybody you're looking forward to seeing on that bill?
It's definitely Fall Out Boy, as we're very inspired by Fall Out Boy, and their CD was in our car when we were 16. So yeah, as a band, it's definitely Fall Out Boy, and then personally, I'd love to see Bullet for My Valentine, and even Limp Bizkit. Obviously, that's going to be incredible.
Yeah, that's standard one, Limp Bizkit. Yeah, that's fair enough. And what's so I mean, obviously that rounds out the year. What's then after that? Do you guys go back in the studio? Are you planning more music?
The plan is to get back in the studio, yeah, probably early next year. And then I don't know about touring. I think we'll know when it feels right, but there's just so many artists touring at the moment. It's just insanity. So we'd love to do another tour again next year, but I guess the focus will be getting back into the studio.
That's actually a good point. If we just head down that path there, do you think the industry now is more about actually having content out there than it is touring?
Yeah, it depends on the band, but I think you have to try and stay on everyone's feed, unless, you know, if you're not touring, it's a bit, we feel so lazy when we're not coming up with ideas for content because it's just so necessary. So yeah, I think to stay relevant, you have to be, it's almost like your second job.
Yeah. And obviously last year was Australia, this year's Australia. Have you got any plans to go overseas?
We'd love to go again. It's so expensive and we miss our families. So the boring answer is we don't have plans, but yeah, if the opportunity presents itself, we will, but we're definitely beyond the days of breaking even, if not losing money, to go overseas and not see our family for a long time.
Yeah, I've heard that from a few people, actually. Yeah, it's fair enough. Okay, well, really, that's my questions done. Have you got anything else that you would like to add about the tour, Bradie?
Not really. I just hope if you are near one of our regional shows that you come check us out. The tickets aren't very expensive and we'd love to see you there, and we promise it will be good.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that, and I'll let you go, and thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in a couple of months.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Tiana.